And the marital relationship that God has with us is this, in this intimacy, is this cultivating, working on God's project to bring all of humanity creation into the destiny He always intended in union with Himself. But when we get to the story of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, what happens, and this is the lie of the serpent, that we all struggle with. You know, you can't really trust that God loves you. He's afraid if you eat this piece of fruit, you know, you'll know everything He knows. And you'll be competition, basically. So like an Anthony Robbins course, empower yourself. Don't trust Him. And they organically take in this toxin. This toxin that really causes this lack of trust to metastasize. And even in the story where God is coming up, and there's almost some humor in it. You know, Adam and Eve, you can tell the immaturity thing. They're like little kids hiding in the bushes. Like, you know, how many little children you find walking on them doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they cover their eyes and think by you not seeing them, you're not, you know, they're not seeing you, rather they're not being seen. So it's almost like the Lord's going, okay, I'll play. Adam, where are you? And the thing that always struck me is they never trusted that God could cover their nakedness. They had to hide in the bushes. The effect had taken hold. And what you see in the story is almost like when they talk about people who have like some abuse or some situation happen, and they're traumatized and they remain emotionally that age. So no matter what happens chronologically, even academically, intellectually, they remain immature, incomplete. They remain emotionally that age. And I'll even say spiritually remaining that age. And that's seen very clearly in how we live in a culture that, you know, all these technological advances, but we act like, as a human race, we'll kill each other, devour each other. We're looking out for number one. As Rodney Dangerfield said, you wind up stepping in number two. But, you know, it's an incredible situation. But God is constantly, all through the Old Testament, He's looking for partners. You have that with Noah, who's actually there to redeem all creation. Then you get to Abraham, and on and on and on. And it's a people, it's a community God's looking for, not just individuals, but individuals who make up this community. Moses, the Israelites, that now Israel, when they leave in the Exodus, it's no longer just people of the biological descent of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's Egyptians who go, people of other races, other ethnic groups are now part of Israel. And Israel now becomes the people in relationship with God, partnering with God to work on His project. And finally culminating in Jesus' work as a disciple. And this is important to understand. In the ancient world, the word mathitas that we translate as disciple was used in terms of being an apprentice. And Jesus takes people who are broken, fearful, self-absorbed, in with Him. And He continues that reality. And of course, Christ does something nobody else could by taking all of these realities of our human life and experience into Himself. And He does something nobody else can do. He causes that invasion to take hold. The back of death, the devil, etc. are broken. They're mortally wounded. But I was always fascinated with the end of Matthew's Gospel with, I don't know if you've ever paid attention, where it says the 11 disciples go to the mountain to which Jesus directed them. And when they saw Him, they worshiped Him, but some are doubtful or questioning. And I always wondered, okay, you're seeing the risen Jesus, tangibly, you know. He's actually allowed you to grab Him. This is not a phantasm. This is a physical reality. I always tell people, spiritual realities are physically expressed, and physical expressions affect spiritual reality. What are they questioning or doubtful of? And what you realize is at the time, many of the Jews were not accepting Jesus because if this was really the real thing, it should be all done and over with. It should be all done and over with. Why is it all done? Why isn't all these dictatorships, all these institutions that oppress and crush people's lives, why aren't they all gone? And I think it's part of the plan that God has structured things that He wants to do it with us and through us, individually and as community. And as communities. And that's, I think, where we're at. We're being invited by God. We're being invited by God. The God who is real and has really taken on our wounds to be healed and bring healing to others. And not just the soul, as was pointed out earlier, but the whole person. And not just the person, to rebirth even all of creation. God made us to be a psychophysical whole. That's our destiny. You know, for the Orthodox, in the Creed, I look forward to the resurrection of the dead and the life of the age to come. It ain't done till Jesus appears and rebirths everything. That's why creation isn't negligible. Heaven ain't fully heaven. Even Gregory Nazianzus talks about that until the parousia takes place. We will feel like something's missing, even in the next dimension. It won't be done. Augustine's great line, without God we can do nothing. Without us, God will do. But that's an invitation, not to be perfect, not that, God will dive into the mud. God will dive into hell. One of my favorite icons is the Descent into Hades. And if an iconographer is doing it correctly, you see it, I shouldn't say correctly, but let me say that, my preference. It's usually Jesus down in the midst of Hades and death. He's standing on the broken gates in a cross form. The devil's, he's tied, bound, thrown into a pit, broken padlocks, keys all over the place. One of my favorite icons. I love it. And on each side of Jesus are people, basically all the people that have existed before the crucifixion of Christ. And on one side you see some with halos, and on the other side you see those without. And you remember what it says in Peter, he went down to proclaim in the prison to the righteous and the unrighteous. He's calling all of them. He's inviting all of them. Even, he's pulling an old man and an old woman out of their stone sarcophagi. And it's Adam and Eve. And what I love about the icon is even when Adam and Eve are being pulled up, they don't have the strength to fully grab back, but they, just by extending their arm, you see in the icon, he's got them by the wrists. And this is the environment of the parish. This is the God we experience in worship, in and through us, to the world around us. And the challenge is how making our parishes, letting the Lord invade our parishes in such a way that we don't get caught up in mechanics alone. Worship is important, I mentioned that before. But it has a goal. It has a goal, and the goal is God. What worship does is, it doesn't make God be there. What worship, I find, does, and from what I've read, from people who know way better than me, is it can make our hearts open and put down our guards to this God, so it can seize us and impregnate us with His love, and allow that transfusion of the blood of His own Son to bring healing, and to bring it to a world that He's also plugged into, whether they know it or not or believe it or not. He's plugged into them. The difference between a Christian and a non-Christian is the word synergy or cooperation. Like two women can be fully pregnant, but the one that's aware and cooperates with the process versus oblivious.